Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. Okay, before I get started, I need to address a massive whoopsie poopsie that I made in that last video. I totally forgot to add in all the supremely kind people over on my Patreon who basically keeps these videos alive, so, yeah, I'm gonna pop that in right here. I'm gonna let it sit for just a second because I am a horrible dingus, unworthy of this kind of support, so thank you everyone for understanding.
So hey, are we finally talking about a game? You've been going on about your Japan trip for a solid month. It's about time we start talking about culture and gaming.
Well, I've been waiting this long with this topic because I didn't want anyone going up my backside about spoilers, and I will be spoiling a good chunk of Tears of the Kingdom. So if that's an issue, this is your one warning. But it's been over a month, so I think it's time we finally dive in this brand new Zelda. So, wait, what are you playing?
Today's sponsor,
Which is...
Puzzle Bubble Every Bubble.
Jeez, that's a mouthful. Wait, I know this game. This is Bust a Move from back in the 90s. I remember seeing this thing all over the place in arcades.
Well, that's the name we gave it. Originally it was called Puzzle Bubble, based on the old arcade NES classic Bubble Bobble. It's a pretty easy game to pick up. You have a plethora of colored bubbles lined up above your adorable dinos, Bub, Bob, Peb, and Pab, and you shoot your own colored bubbles into those same clusters, matching the colors to remove them. Now, that sounds simple, but in traditional competitive puzzle game nature, the more you knock out, the more pressure you put on your opponent by adding to their pile. Unlike most competitive puzzle games, though, you can also have 2v2 fights rather than just 1v1. Puzzle Bubble Every Bubble also have some really cute side games, like a PB/Space Invaders hybrid to change up the formula. There's also tons of extra characters to unlock in the game, as well as a colorblind feature for better accessibility. So, if this adorable update to one of the most classic arcade puzzle competitive games sounds good to you, hit up our link in the description to check out more.
I mean, I'm pretty garbage at puzzle games, but I think I could get into this one. Okay, what was I talking about? Ah, right, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So, here's the thing about TOTK and Breath of the Wild by extension. A lot of people have had a lot of different takeaways from this new Zelda that really stuck with them. The free and totally open gameplay that has you side questing for hours, the lightly sprinkled soundtrack that makes it feel like you're in a big open natural world,
Thirsting on Zelda's plus-size hitbox, thirsting on rehydrated Ganondorf, thirsting on Gerudo lady abs. Hey, I ain't judging. Personally, I'd be happy to be dragged down into a Great Fairy's realm any day of the week.
But when it came to my time with this new Zelda formula, all I could see is how Nintendo's been ramming its domestic culture into its design and narrative. I've already talked at length about Breath of the Wild with its Yiga and Sheikah ninja aesthetics, Kakariko Village basically being Japan's Jomon period in terms of design, how the Sheikah monks that you find in the various trials in the game are literally Soko Shinbutsu self-mummifying Buddhist monks, and even how Master Koga's dance is little more than a Kancho attack. Heck, I didn't even mention that one of the side quests in Kakariko Village is taken straight out of the Japanese classic The Tale of Genji, both focusing on collecting fireflies for the sake of a beautiful gal. But Tears of the Kingdom? Originally, I thought Nintendo was going to back away a bit from jamming Japanese culture in this game, but they freaking doubled down on it. And to this day, I'm really surprised no one's called it out.
Well, that is our burden to bear.
Ain't that the truth? Like, some of these references are really obvious, like how the Zonai dispensers are quite literally gacha machines. Though instead of dropping $1 in quarters to get a random capsule toy, Link's dropping Zonai charges to get random capsuled wheels, pots, cannons, and laser guns. Then there's the Zonai race themselves, an ancient Highland people surrounded in mystery that makes up the narrative of the first third of this game. Well, apparently according to senior lead artist Yonezu Makoto, the name Zonai is actually an anagram for the Japanese word nazo, meaning mystery. All they did was flip around the word and added an I. Even Ganondorf is utterly riddled with Japaneseisms. At first you might be thinking, so he's got a katana, big deal. Oh, but look right here. See how this theoretical kimono has a fully open sleeve? That's referencing an old Ronin myth. Pictures, movies, and even video games have depicted disgraced Ronin as having one sleeve of their garb open as a sort of physical penance for the loss of their lord and their position as a samurai. Now this is just a myth, but one that media has really run with since the 1960s with movies like Yojimbo and video games like Final Fantasy X. Going back to Ganondorf, he could very easily be seen as a fallen Gerudo king. Where the Gerudo people in general are a protagonist faction in Hyrule, Ganondorf, the once in 100 years born king of the Gerudo, has been going off the deep end into evil since Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, it's one of those subtle references that really takes you off guard. Like the Zonai stabilizers. Yeah, believe it or not, out of the dozens of different devices, the stabilizer of all things actually has a super Japanese origin. Take in the form of this thing. See how it's kind of got a phase with a wide, rounded body at the bottom, and when you activate it, it immediately sits back up and can't get knocked over? that and anything attached to it can't get knocked over either, that's a Dharma, modeled after Bodhidharma, the founder of Zen Buddhism in Japan. Now, you might be wondering why there aren't arms and legs on this doll, and that comes from the myth that Bodhidharma meditated for 9 straight years and his arms and legs fell off. But atrophy aside, the Dharma doll is an item that represents tenacity and determination. And just like Weebles, they wobble, but they don't fall down. Just as Bodhidharma went through a lot of physical trials and tribulations during his meditation, but never stopped focusing. Likewise, when you activate these Zonai stabilizers, no matter what you do or what you put them through, they don't topple over.
And how about the wreaths that are sold in Kakariko Village? An item that, so far, only serves one purpose of changing a single conversation in-game. But I can't help but think that this has a big cultural inspiration. While Kakariko sells them as part of their tourism initiative with the coming of the ring ruins that fell in and around the town, I can't escape the feeling that these are based on Shinto Shime Kazari wreaths. Granted, yeah, these look a lot more like Christmas wreaths, but I don't know. Something about how the vegetation is twisted in a spiral and then tied off with the ends sticking out? I mean, Christmas wreaths typically don't look like that, but Shime Kazari actually do. Now, these are made with shimenawa and pine twisted around in a loop and then hung in homes during Oshogatsu New Year celebrations. But what you might not know about Shime Kazari is that many of them are made with urajiro fern, fronds of these plants that grow in pairs which symbolize old couples growing old together. And in Tears of the Kingdom, Gerudo Gal Deltan recognizes the Kakariko ring garland as an item symbolizing the binding of destinies of people together. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch, but I can't help but feel these two wreathed items share some kind of connection.
Yeah, and speaking of stretchy speculations, I'm convinced that the tiny buildings you find a good amount of Tears of the Kingdom's hidden and ultra-powerful pieces of gear are Mikoshi shrines. Granted, you're never gonna find a Japanese portable shrine 30 feet underground in real life, but have a look at this footage from the game, and look at this image of a Mikoshi. Look at the similar designs of the pagoda-like roof, at the longer, more boxy body, the curved decor at each corner of the roof with hanging tassels, the common color schemes of gold and red, and especially the 2 long rods that are built under both of these pieces of architecture. And if that doesn't sell you, what's inside of these things seals the deal in my book. In-game, you find legendary pieces of armor that are attributed to various mythical heroes, or even a god in the case of the Fierce Deity set. And inside every Mikoshi is what's called a Shintai, a sacred object that holds the spirit of the kami. 2 cases of incredibly powerful and sacred artifacts placed inside these 2 shrines. These are absolutely one and the same. Though that being said, please don't go looting Mikoshi like Link. That'll get you several beatings and probably head to a likely jail time.
Dude, speaking of sacred objects, how about the Sage special stones that all of the main characters keep collecting throughout the game? Yeah, these are absolutely Magatama gems. Now, Magatama gems have a lot of different purposes in Japan throughout history. Dating back to the Neolithic period, these bent precious stones were first popularized in the late Jomon period as highly decorative pieces of jewelry, worn in people's hair, wrists, and ankles, much in the way that all of the sages in Tears of the Kingdom wear their own special stones as different kinds of jewelry. However, come the Kofun period in the late 6th century CE, Magatama began holding spiritual and religious significance, seen as gems that brought good fortune and positive spiritual power to the holder, attached to swords, bows, mirrors, and placed around various temples and shrines. And by the time the Yamato clan officially took over Japan as a country, the Magatama became one of the 3 Shinto regalia of Japan, known as the Yasakani no Magatama, with it being the jewel given by the head kami herself, Amaterasu, to her grandson Ninigi no Mikoto as proof that he was to be the ruler of the mortal world. Very similar to how all of the Magatama secret stones given to the various new sages and Tears of the Kingdom have come from their ancient ancestors and leaders of their respective races.
Oh, and speaking of leaders, we gotta talk about Impa. So where she was the village elder and leader of the Kakariko in Breath of the Wild, now she's basically retired and traveling Hyrule in search of the meaning behind all these new hieroglyphs that have been popping up all over the map, leaving the leadership of the village as well as her gigantic chain decor Jingasa hat to the best gal of the franchise, Paya. Yeah, come fight me, nerds. But what's incredibly interesting is that, well, for one, she's wearing a Tsubo Shozoku, or at least most of one. This is an outfit that high-class ladies of the Heian period circa 1800 to 1200 BCE wore as streetwear and as a traveler's outfit, punctuated by the wide brim yet long stem Ichime Gasa or city lady hat. And with this long translucent veil that covers the circumference of the hat, it goes all the way down to the lady's legs. Now, while Impa is no rich city lady, she is very much on a long journey across the entirety of Hyrule. So this choice of travel wear checks out for a Hyrulean people 100% wrapped up in Japanese culture.
Yeah, but then we have her staff, and this is really interesting to me because this is the first time I've ever seen anything like this in the Zelda games. This is a shakujo staff, a piece of paraphernalia typically associated with not just Buddhist monks, but traveling Buddhist monks. On one hand, the shakujo staff makes for a fantastic defensive weapon for the traveling monk, a sort of bow and yari combined style of strikes.
Wait, so you mean Impa could flip out and go prequel Yoda on some bokoblins?
Theoretically, yeah. I mean, did you see how insane she fought in Hyrule Warriors? But there's more to the shakujo staff than combat. You see those 4 rings on Impa's staff? Those are purposely there as noisemakers. As a Buddhist monk would walk, the rings would jingle-jangle and alert anyone who would be in need of a Buddhist monk nearby. But what I personally find interesting is that the number of rings on the staff are symbolic of deeply rooted concepts of Buddhism. In Impa's case, her 4 rings represent the 4 noble truths of Buddhism, but there can also be 6 for the 6 perfections of the Bodhisattva as well as the 6 realms of existence, 8 for the Eightfold Path, and 12 for the liberation of the 12 chain links of dependent arising. Now, you might be wondering why on earth an ex-leader of a ninja village would be walking around with so much Buddhist symbolism. Well, remember, what we know as ninja today have their roots in 3 characteristics: Chinese strategy, Yamabushi aesthetics, and Mikyo Buddhism. Much of the rituals and beliefs rooted in shinobi principles like the Gaijin were originally from Buddhism. So for a retired ninja grandma like Impa to be traveling around with a shakujo staff does actually completely check out. Now, on the topic of Buddhism, have you ever gone inside one of the sky towers and just looked around? I mean, I get it. The point of them is to run in as fast as you can so you can go swoosh up into the air, especially after doing some elaborate puzzle to open them up, as well as a section of the map. But seriously, next time you're in one of these things, have a look around, especially at the upper corners and the ceilings. Yeah, you see all that right there? There's all these little rectangular stickers all over the place with different patterns and colors. I've been wondering what those are. Now, originally, I thought, okay, these are just ofuda, paper extensions of a kami or a Buddhist power to protect the area it's placed in, but there was a problem with that theory. Ofuda are very intricately detailed and have a very specific structure. The name of the shrine, kami, temple, or Buddha is listed down the middle with a unique stamp from the temple or shrine pressed under or beside it. That's not what this is. It's too simple and unstylized. But these looked so freaking familiar, and I know I've seen them somewhere before on temple and shrine grounds. And then I realized, duh, look up, forehead. And sure enough, going back through pictures I took, as well as keeping an eye out on my last Japan trip last month, I got a glimpse of these. And these are exactly the same kind of stickers I found in the Sky Towers. Now these are called Senja Fuda, or 1000 Fuda, which are kind of like Ofuda, but in reverse? Rather than it being an extension of the kami or Buddha given to the visitors, these are stamps given by the visitors to the temples and shrines. But these aren't just name-slap stickers, but rather Senja Fuda were considered the early business cards of the Edo period in Japan. People would pay a fee and undergo a brief ritual in order for their shrine tag to be accepted and placed on the grounds, left by visitors as a way to commemorate their visit with the name of said visitor being printed in very simple Edo moji, the same printing style used by ukiyo-e prints. Obviously, something like this given by important visitors to shrines and temples need to be placed somewhere safe. So monks and priests would place Senja Fuda on rafters, ceilings, and other places that were well out of the way from things like rain, sun, and whatever else could cause weather damage. That's why so many of these stickers are placed near or on the roof of the Sky Towers in Tears of the Kingdom, and it also goes to show that Link isn't the only one to visit these Sky Towers either. Now, I have no idea what these names of Tears of the Kingdom Senja Fuda are. Obviously, we got some kind of Sheikah symbolism going on here, but as far as the various diamonds go, I don't know, go ask Zeltic. But either way, it just goes to prove that this is absolutely a callback to Senja Fuda and not Ofuda.
True, but the paper wards found in the various Yiga strongholds in the depths are very much Ofuda. Emblazoned with the Yiga clan symbol and glowing with an ominous red light as the Hyrulean Kuji-in surround it. Yeah, no joke. Shout out to Zeltic for finding this one, but if you translate the Hylian characters, they're R, P, T, S, K, J, R, Z, and Z. Those being the first letters of Nin, Pyo, To, Sha, Kai, Jin, Netz, Zai, and Zen, the 9 characters of the Shinobi Kuji-in.
Alright, finally, we come to the big one. The massive third act twist of the story that, well, if you patrolled the skies for any amount of time, you might have seen this coming. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Zelda turns into a dragon. And not just any dragon, but the Dragon of Light in order to repair the broken Master Sword. Now this plot device alone isn't hard rooted in Japanese myth, but everything that's around it and its characters does. The Triforce has been an ongoing symbol of the Hyrule royal family for generations of Zelda games. It's also been a long-known homage to the Hojo clan who had ruled Japan from the Kamakura period up to the start of the Ashikaga shogunate. But it's the Kamon crest, that crest identical to the Triforce, that I need to talk about. Originally, this icon was known as the Mitsu Uroko, or Three Dragon Scales, and it was the symbol of the Hojo clan's authority. The Taiheki tells of Hojo Tokimasa going to a pilgrimage of prayer and fasting to the island of Enoshima. Tucked away in the Iwaya caves, the goddess Benzaiten appeared before him and told him that since he had been a priest in his past life, he and his family would come to rule Japan with impunity. After giving her blessing, Benzaiten turned to the sea, but as she began to submerge, Tokimasa saw a dragon's tail flick out from under her clothing, and as she disappeared, she left behind 3 dragon scales. Thus, the legacy of the Hojo clan's Mitsu Uroko was born. You starting to see some of the similarities here? Though it's not 100% parallel, you see the connections between the Hojo clan's Mitsu Uroko, the Hyrule royal family's connection and symbolism with the Triforce, the connection between Zelda being a near demigod with her powers of light and becoming a dragon, and how that relates back to Benzaiten. This just all utterly smacks of the origin story of the Mitsu Uroko, and I'm calling Nintendo out on it right here, right now. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm crazy, but I can't help but see things like this in this game. But that just begs the question, what other culture could this game borrow from? I mean, my realm of cultural understanding is Japan, the Far East, but I know Zelda's taken idea from other places and other cultures. So how about it, viewer? What sort of cultural inspirations have you seen in Tears of the Kingdom? Let me know in the comments below, and again, if you're a fan of competitive puzzle games, love adorable dinos, or just want a blast from the past, be sure to check out Puzzle Bobble Every Bubble by hitting up my link in the description. Like I said, I suck at puzzle games, but even I'm really enjoying this. And if you want to learn even more about Japan, Asia, and the rest of the world through your favorite games, shows, movies, and more, sub up, get notified, and come back every other week for a brand new video. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.